the Dawgs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast presented by Omaha Steaks. Josh and Justin with you guys today. We're going to be talking about a few things that have gone on this week. Up front, a little bit of news, but the primary thing we want to get into. Want to talk about this whole Stump Mitchell, what he said about Kareem Hunt. We're kind of going to get some of Justin's thoughts and my thoughts on that whole situation. And then we really want to dive into, I saw an article the other day, a guy that's plugged in with the Browns said something about Marquise Hollywood Brown could be a wide receiver the Browns, could benefit from bringing in this offseason. So we'll talk about that, give our thoughts and opinions on Hollywood. And then at the end, we're going to go ahead and dive into our top 5 favorite Ohio athletes. That was a question that came from Andrew Jackson in our Patreon group in the Dog Pack. So we're going to actually do that on the main show here because that's a pretty cool topic. Definitely want to talk about that. So before we dive into everything, make sure you guys are liking this video. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate that. If you're listening on audio, we appreciate you guys too. Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, everywhere that you guys can get podcasts. And then last but not least, join the Dog Pack. Like I just mentioned, jointhedawgs.com, become an official Dog Pack member on the Patreon page. We will be doing an after hours episode. That's our weekly bonus episode for the Patreon members. We're going to do that after this show. And depending on how time goes here, we may kick over one of the other topics we have for this show, which would be some Taylor Swift discussion. That might be on the after hours. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, we get a little more loose on the after hours, kind of let things fly a little bit. It's pretty cool. So jointhedawgs.com, become an official Dog Pack member. So before we dive into the big stuff, Justin, you were sick. And
yes.
Everybody was worried about you, man. Everybody's like, oh, Justin's okay,
Don't be worried about me. I'm just, I live in a house with 2 children under 4, and they're both in preschool. So, I'm pretty much just a test subject at this point. I have like a good week where I'm like, oh man, I feel great. And then it's followed by, just illnesses I didn't even know existed in this world, but let alone a pre-K classroom. Uh-huh. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at in life right now.
I'm feeling a whole lot of dads out there listening to this, just kind of nodding their head. Going along. Like,
yeah.
Yep, got it.
I didn't even know it was a real thing. Didn't even know that was a possibility. But yeah, yes.
Well, that's a ton of fun. So since you were sick on Monday, we did not get your opinion on the Ken Dorsey hire. So Browns bring in Ken Dorsey, offensive coordinator. What say you?
Okay. So at first, when it first came through, a little disappointed. I'll be honest. We had kind of all talked like on the show and just, we talked with Browns fans in general. I thought we kind of needed an innovator, somebody, a young guy coming in and, maybe cook some things up and maybe a different perspective for Kevin Stefanski. I took a couple days and did a little reading, did a little research. I came away with a few things, right? The biggest one I came away with was Kevin Stefanski is going to be playing, calling plays next year. I don't think that that's going to change now. The interesting thing, and I'm not even sold on it. I don't hate it or love it. But if you look at this guy's career, he's been a huge part of the development of some guys, right? So you have him with Cam Newton in 2015 MVP season. You look at Josh Allen's growth, when he was drafted, he's kind of linked in there. Say what you want about when he became a play caller with Buffalo, there's definitely some alarming things that happened. But if you look at what Buffalo was the last few years, as far as like explosive offense, and then just what Josh Allen has become in this league, I think it all comes down to they needed a guy that Deshaun Watson could develop and just kind of, I don't want to say like grow with, because I think he's an excellent player already. I think that his upside is, this upside. You've seen it already. We've witnessed how good he can be. Yeah. But I think that they just need to get back to what works for him. And so if bringing in this guy is the key to that, I think that this is it's an interesting move. I don't know if it's a win. Even now I sit here and I'm like, did we rush the decision? I think they kind of wanted Kellen Moore a little bit,
I think
that.
Okay.
I think that's really like the guy that they were kind of targeting.
Kellen
and
Moore
maybe there's some other
would have definitely demanded play calling duties. There's no way he was taking a demotion in that department.
I agree. But so if I look at it like that, I'm open to it. And I've always been a very big believer of the front office, right? So I feel like you can't sit here and go, hey, Andrew Barry's a genius, but then question every decision that he makes. I'm a guy that trusts the process kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like, and I really do. I like what they've done for the most part, as far as through the draft, free agency, players they've brought in. So for me, I'm letting this play out. That's my personal opinion of it. But if you look, his track record up until this year had been pretty good. He was involved in a lot of like success for a lot of guys. So yeah, it's interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. And, one thing about, you said, trust the process, trust this front office and everything. Just because we always say, the front office, this is like the best front office we've ever had. Coaching staff, Kevin Stefanski, these guys are awesome. Doesn't mean they're perfect. They still make mistakes. But the thing that I've noticed over the last 4 seasons now with this consistency in the front office and the coaching staff, they don't really make the same mistakes twice. Sure. So, and Andrew Barry talked about that in his press conference last week, where they asked him about his growth development over the last 4 years since he became the general manager of the Browns. And he said, I've learned the most from my failures, meaning whenever I make a hire or I select a draft pick or I sign a guy and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, I learn from that. And I think that's key. I mean, everybody says, oh yeah, I learned from my mistakes, but I think these guys actually do. You feel that way?
And I don't sense panic. Like,
right.
That was my first thing that I was worried about. Like, as soon as the news broke, I felt like I didn't know if it was a rush decision, right? Because I'm like, did they just go, oh, Kellen's off the table, crap, we got to go get somebody right now? Like, that was my fear of it. And then just when I did a little background on it, and because I don't know what kind of feedback you're getting from Browns fans. Like, the Browns fans I talk to go, yeah, probably not my guy. You know what I mean? I'm hearing a lot of different guys. I talked to one of my buddies. He said, I think maybe we could have hung around and seen what, Clay Kubiak wanted to do, if maybe he wanted to come to Cleveland. Right. Like I said, I think you just got to trust the process. Buffalo fans will tell you we're stupid. Buffalo fans will tell you your Browns are doing the Brown stuff right now. But honestly, he was a big part of what they did.
He was
up until last season. So I'm interested. I'm curious to see how it all plays out, especially from what you hear coming out already. We're going to throw the ball a lot. It's going to be a lot of airing it out again. So I'm interesting. I like some of the schemes that he had in Buffalo. I mean, they were explosive offense.
They were, man.
3 years? And Josh Allen was a kid coming out of, we had an opportunity to draft him, and everything you heard was, big arm, but we're not sure. We're not sure if it'll all translate together.
And after year one, it was like, ooh, boy.
Yeah. First year, it was like, maybe he's not that guy. Maybe he's just another one of those guys. Mm-hmm. And then he is ascended in a special way. Does he turn the ball over a lot? Yeah, maybe. But man, he is insane. He is one of the most fun players to watch in this league.
Yeah. And, you mentioned Kubiak there too. And I was reading some stuff about him, and while I was interested as well, then, there was the connection between Stefanski and his dad, Gary Kubiak from Minnesota. Correct, and it was like, do we want more of the same? I think Kevin's trying to diversify. That's the thing with Kevin that you always hear Andrew Barry say, he's willing to learn, he's willing to grow and adapt. So I don't think everybody kind of gets this impression of Kevin that he's stuck in his ways and he refuses to give out play calling and all. I don't think that's necessarily the case. And I forget, maybe it was Blake the other night. Somebody made the point that, Kevin Stefanski in his first 4 years on his first contract with the Browns, the only way he's coming in here on a play calling acumen. You know what I mean? Like, that's been his resume. He's not giving that to somebody unless he truly trusts them, because he's trying to get a second contract. He wants to be an extended head coach in this league. So you kind of stick to what you do well unless you feel like you can really trust that other person. We brought in Gerard Johnson, who ended up going on a ton of interviews with other teams, didn't sign anywhere. Nobody hired him. He went back to Houston to be the QB coach. Bobby Slowick was the offensive coordinator down there in Houston. He's not leaving to be a head coach. So, some of these guys, their names get thrown out there. We get excited about them. And then you kind of see them go through the progressions with these other teams. Nothing happens. And it's like, well, maybe there's a reason for that. And the Browns also saw that reason.
Yep. Just a quick question, just throw it at you. Do you think that Kevin Calls plays next year?
I do. Mm-hmm. I know there's still all this speculation like, well, Kevin's still tossing it around. He could, he couldn't, he might give it up. I doubt he does. There's definitely no strings attached here. It's not like they promised Dorsey he'd be able to call plays if he came in, because they didn't, and he's here. So I think it's going to work either way. I have definitely come around on Kevin as a play caller, I think, after watching this season especially. And we've watched this so closely, and it was our 4th season now doing Cleveland Browns football. Mm-hmm. And you see the play calls, and then you see the execution on the field. And then when they show replays, you look at it from different angles. It's like, what Kevin called here worked.
Right.
Like, players botched
didn't
it.
execute.
Yeah. So as far as play calling goes, I'm cool with it if he keeps it.
I agree completely.
So that's Ken Dorsey now, another new OC in the AFC North. The Steelers have decided to go ahead and try their hand with the hated, at least if you play fantasy football, Arthur Smith from the Atlanta Falcons. So, when this one popped up, and I get it, there's a lot of people saying, well, look at what he did as an OC in Tennessee versus head coach. Yeah, the splits are pretty impressive in not such a good way for him, because I was just looking at overall finishes. When he was the OC in Tennessee, the Titans offense in his first year finished 12th overall in yards, 10th overall in points. His second year in 2020, that jumped, man. In Tennessee, they were 2nd overall in the NFL in yards and 4th overall in points. So the offense was very, very good in Tennessee. But then he goes to Atlanta to be the head coach, this offensive-minded guy, and they finished 29th and 26th. And then in 22, they finished 24th in yards and 15th in points. And then this past season, 17th in yards and 26th in points. So they're not scoring a ton of points. He got knocked for not being able to utilize some serious top 10 NFL draft talent. And I don't know, man. Do you think this is going to work out for the Steelers in Pittsburgh?
So I think this is an interesting one, right? So all the last couple of years, all I've heard is, man, he doesn't know how to utilize Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London. You have Atlanta fans saying, well, what do you want him to do? You got Ritter, whoever the quarterback is. It's not a top-notch quarterback. I think this is an interesting hire, right? I think that this could be favorable. You see a guy, when you look at Tennessee, what he was doing in 2019 and 2020, I believe, you look at Derrick Henry, had 2 career years with him. And I know they ran the ball a ton with Derrick Henry, but in Pittsburgh, they have 2 very, very serviceable backs. I mean, Najee's pretty nice. And then I'm a very big fan of Jaylen Warren. I think that he is sneaky good and kind of not even really utilized as much as he could be. So if you see those kind of touches, maybe even split between those guys, I could see it working. Another interesting thing that I think could be favorable for Pittsburgh is you look at a guy, A.J. Brown. He had 2 pretty good years as he was ascending, both 1,000 yards, kind of put himself on the map. And now he's elevated himself into a new league, a different, tier of players as far as wide receivers in Philly. He went from a guy that put up back-to-back 1,000 yards to, you pretty much book him for 1,500 and like 11 touchdowns every year. Like that's top-notch, top 5, top 10 wide receiver type numbers. So I think I saw some stuff about, there's worries, would Pickens be upset with this? I personally think that if he's able to just manage this offense, and they have some question marks, they've got to figure out quarterback. They absolutely have to figure out quarterback. If they roll it into next year with those 3 guys, obviously I think
the thing is, man,
it's not it.
No, he's not.
It's not it. Mason Rudolph's probably the best guy in that group.
Oh, and he sucks. Point. And I don't even know. Horrible. So the thing is, the Steelers, Kenny Pickett, they were a playoff team, right? They don't have any kind of high draft capital to go get one of these top. Now, this is a much better quarterback draft than years past, so far anyway. At least that's what the guys are saying. But
the vibes are,
yeah, exactly. And Could they find somebody later in the first round, maybe even in the second round? Of course. I mean, Jalen Hurts, these guys, guys are found later in the draft. But this Arthur Smith thing might, to your point, be more for the run game, because the Steelers may very well be looking at the situation saying, we're kind of stuck with Kenny. He's not good. He's got 2 years now, and he's only got 13 total touchdowns. He's never had double-digit touchdowns in a season. And what are we going to do? You know what I mean? And we've got Najee Harris, first-round pick. Jaylen Warren is showing that he's pretty awesome.
He's good. Yeah.
Maybe I hope it doesn't work out for him. I really hope it blows up in their face and they are dog shit. But
I do think that there's interesting parts of this because he loves to run the ball.
Yeah.
But let's say they get aggressive. The owner's not happy. Tomlin's in for another year, so that they're going to be well coached, right? They're going to win a lot of close games.
Yes, and fans are still going to call for Tomlin's head. They're going to call for, I guarantee it's going to be like 4 weeks in, they're going to be saying, get Arthur Smith out of here the first time they have a 6-point showing.
Call me crazy, but what if they make an aggressive move and they go and they trade for Justin Fields or Russell Wilson or something along those lines? I think that the narrative could be much, much different heading into next season, because you saw Arthur Smith elevate a guy in Tannehill
that's true.
Miami tossed to the side, didn't want anything to do with. I know it wasn't just an immediate thing with Tannehill. He got to build himself up, and it kind of all clicked in those 2 years where, especially in 2020, they were a top number 1 seed in the AFC. I wanted to say they were 11-5 or something like that. They were a dominant team. If they can go and get a quarterback, I think that they're just as dangerous as they've ever been. I mean, I've always been a guy that said you can't, even when you look at them, you're like, oh man, this roster is not that good. Defense is okay, probably better than average, but offense is, they get a decent quarterback that can get the ball to Pickens, and then Deontay Johnson's still there. I don't see this necessarily being like, just because they hired Arthur Smith, they're done. I just don't.
Nope. So do they get the Arthur Smith from Atlanta? Do they get the one from Tennessee?
Correct.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But
you gotta, if you're a Browns fan, you gotta hope the Atlanta one.
Yes,
if you're
for sure.
Because if you get the Tennessee version and he's able to elevate this offense into, like, let's say top 10, and with that defense, they're going to be very, very formidable again.
Absolutely. I know you're talking about bringing in a quarterback. If they don't, they roll with Pickett. That makes me feel better, because I don't think that he can really take them too far. I mean, obviously, he can help get you to the playoffs. I wouldn't say he led them there this year by any stretch, but
he's not the guy.
No,
they've got to be. To me, I know he's just second year, but I would do everything I could to get out of that contract, whether you trade him to a team that maybe wants to develop him, if they see something in him. That's why I just think there's a big quarterback market as far as veteran guys, young guys that are out there that could be available. And the idea of Justin Fields in a Steelers uniform makes me just absolutely super depressed.
It does, and
nervous.
Did you see the hype video the Chicago Bears put out on social media?
No, I did not.
The Chicago Bears
I don't know what
just
they're gonna
put
do.
out a hype, with about Justin Fields.
Really? So Marvin Harrison Jr. at 1?
Maybe. Or they're probably going to trade it for a haul for somebody who wants to come up and get Caleb.
Just be smart.
Yeah, down to 2 or 3. And the thing is, if they decide to keep, and I know this is a little off topic here, but if they decide to keep Fields, they're going to be, I think, very good on offense this year. I think it's going to be a much better offense than what you've seen in the past. I think he's a good quarterback. I do. I think that he can be a good quarterback. I just feel like the coaching up there in Chicago has been pretty bad.
I agree. I think every year he's gotten a little bit better. Now, I understand, like, when you listen to, like, the sports media and stuff like that, and they're like, this is a chance for Chicago to reset the market again, like reset their window on a quarterback. They're doing basically set it back 3 years, and they're back on a rookie contract deal because they're going to have to pay.
I understand the business side of it. The business side of it makes total sense.
Right. But to me, I'm like, that looked like a kid that I thought was going the right direction and looked explosive as ever, especially like with the run threat. It is, he's extremely dynamic.
I've heard this presented in a nice way by another show I listened to, and they said, if you're Chicago, you got to look at it this way and just use last year's draft. You take a quarterback at 1, you decide to go that route and move off Fields. you are taking a chance that you are landing the next CJ Stroud, potentially. That's awesome.
Sure.
Or you could be hitting the
Bryce
next
Young.
Bryce Young. Yep.
Right.
So
right.
If you feel like Justin Fields is somewhere like a nice balance between those two right now, maybe you just roll with him, stock up on more draft capital, move down, get him another elite wide receiver, because DJ Moore, I think, is an elite wide receiver. He is a talented guy. You put those two out there with Justin Fields and get them a little bit more of a running game going, could be good. Could be good.
I mean, I think DJ Moore kind of answered the call on whether he was a number one receiver in this league last year. He went absolutely crazy, especially like the primetime games. There was that Thursday night game where he went absolutely stupid dumb on, like 200 yards, like 2 or 3 touchdowns. Like, imagine you throw a number one alongside him, and then you've got to match up with those guys, and they have. You just think of some of the like Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's so kind of just undervalued. Mm-hmm. He's really, really good. Like they're very, very close. I feel like they're just, I don't want to say they're like a poverty franchise, because for most of my life they've been rough, but so have we. But I just feel like some of the decision making, like they've never really had a quarterback my entire life. Like I think of the Bears and I go, it's Jay Cutler. Like,
right.
Was it Rex Grossman? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like I'd say Jay Cutler is probably the best one. So like if they can kind of get Fields and continue to get him progressing, man, I think they've got a lot of upside. I don't get the trade Caleb Williams, get Caleb Williams thing. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I'm with you. But so before this becomes a Chicago Bears podcast, we're just going to talk about one. No, it's all good, man. We both went down that route, but there's one more move that happened in the AFC North, and then we'll move off of this topic. The defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald from the Ravens, is now gone. He is now the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. So I just wanted to mention that, just throw it out there so everybody was aware that the Ravens have lost their defensive coordinator. They were pretty darn good on defense this year.
Yeah. And, I thought that they said they had an ex-linebacker, what was his name, or that's filling into the defensive coordinator spot. And I haven't really done too much, you know what I mean? I'm not diving down into depth charts of, coaching staffs and stuff like that at this point. But it's kind of it's significant. It's a significant deal. Now, they're a great franchise. We hate to say that, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's just like, I don't think it's going to be like a wheels fall off kind of deal for them. It's like next man up. So we'll see, but very interesting thing.
This episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Browns fans, the Super Bowl is decided, and the rat turds are not going to be there. It's the Chiefs taking on the San Francisco 49ers on February 11th. But before the big game, make sure you guys get your orders in at Omaha Steaks. Don't throw your Super Bowl parties or, even your Valentine's Day meals, because let's face it, that's coming up too, guys, real fast. Do not host these events without the best meats and foods available from Omaha Steaks. Right now, when you order at omahasteaks.com/dogs, DAWGS, you will get 4 free pork chops and 4 free boneless chicken breasts with your order. That's 8 free additional items when you place your order right now at omahasteaks.com/dogs. I've been saying it forever. Best steaks, best burgers, steak burgers. Oh my gosh. The best chicken, the best ready to eat meals, the desserts for Valentine's Day. I'm telling you, make sure you add the caramel apple tartlets to your order. She's going to love them. So go now, get it in time for all the big things happening coming up here in February. omahasteaks.com/dogs. Minimum purchase may apply. Okay, so let's shift gears here. This happened, the whole Stump Mitchell thing. Okay, this one we haven't talked about yet on the show. It happened. It didn't even happen last week. I think it was the week before all this kind of came out, and we haven't really addressed it at all. Which is, I don't know what you want to say about that. We've met him. We've met Stump. We hung out with him. We've had him on the show. We've had a conversation with him. We hung out with him at training camp. Like we've been around this guy a little bit, and the heat he was taking for his comments, I didn't totally understand, because it just didn't seem like him. From when we met him, he seemed so down to earth, so passionate about his guys. And then all this stuff came out. Well, he's throwing Kareem under the bus. He's throwing shade. He's talking shit. And I saw all that and thought, that's really weird. It just doesn't seem like him. And then I actually went and watched the interview. Did you watch the interview?
Mm-hmm. I watched some of it.
Okay.
I didn't watch the entire thing, but I watched like the juicy parts.
Right. So
of
I've got the two juicy clips with Stump talking about Kareem Hunt, and the way, I'll just kind of preface it this way: the way it came up in the conversation, I feel like Stump is intentional about what he says, and I don't feel like but I also don't feel like he came into this interview saying, no matter what, I'm calling Kareem out in this interview. That's malicious. I don't feel like that happened. I feel like as the conversation was going, he thought, I think I have an opportunity here to try to get through to Kareem, which I'll just play this first clip. Like I said, we got two. I'll play the first one and we'll just kind of talk about it.
I really believe I got an opportunity to get the most out of everybody except for Kareem so far. I think Kareem has a lot to offer, but I think what he needs to do is dedicate himself to getting all that he can get and don't settle for being who he's been in the past. And I think he'll be one hell of a player.
What has your philosophy been to try to unlock that from them?
To try to talk to, I would say, first starting with Jacoby Brissett, then to Deshaun, to anyone else that can try to get a hold to him so he can hear someone else's voice other than mine. And, that's all it can do.
Yikes.
I mean, it's not good.
Yikes,
now,
right?
Before we go on, I will say, I think he probably shouldn't have said anything. I mean, I think that's pretty fair to say. Like, it probably pops up in your head during the conversation. Hey, I think I'll mention Kareem here. Maybe second guess that. Maybe, take 2 seconds and think about what you're going to say. But
I think I think you nailed something very important there while you were leading it up. I agree with you. I feel like he's a guy he really, really thinks a lot about like what he's going to say, and he's very deliberate with his words, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, when I heard this, I was surprised because it just seemed so, from what, it just seemed kind of like an out of character kind of thing. But like, I honestly, then I look back and I go, maybe he's trying to kind of open the door up and let some light in on some things, because we had Kareem. A lot of Browns players like Kareem a lot. He's kind of one of those guys that, we all like him, but they decided, hey, we're not going to bring him back. He lost a step. That was what we heard.
Yep.
Maybe there's a little bit more to it, maybe, because it sounds like he's a guy that, kind of just shows up, goes through the motions and goes home. You look at his performance, and for like, he wasn't the same guy, right, this year. But at the end of the year, he still had 10, 11 touchdowns. Like, I mean, he's still a haul right at the in the red zone. Like, if it's at the 2-3 yard line, book it. It's a touchdown. Like, so I just felt like it was very surprising for him to, go say Kareem, and then just kind of go through those things, because it sounds like maybe there was a work ethic thing. Maybe there was something going on there where he felt like he tried to get more out of him and he just couldn't get through to him, especially then to say, hey, I talked to Jacoby and I talked to Deshaun and I tried to get these guys to get him bought in, and, and then it's just, I think it's just interesting. It's very surprising because I didn't think we'd hear anything, and then like, man, there was a lot of juicy content there.
There sure was. I mean, when we talked to him before the season started, Nick Chubb was still healthy. Nick Chubb was still the lead guy, and everything was rosy and good to go. And we had him on the show, and we talked to him a lot about Nick Chubb, and that was kind of our main focus. And he answered our questions about Nick, and he talked Nick up and told us what we wanted to know about Nick. But he really made sure he emphasized how important Jerome Ford was to the offense.
Yes.
How important John Kelly was. He even went as far as to hype up Demetric Felton at the time, who ended up not even making the team. He was very focused on making sure everybody knew that those running backs, that his guys were good guys and they were good players, and he wanted them recognized. And he mentioned Kareem because he talked about, last year what Nick and Kareem could do, that's what Nick and Jerome can do. He kind of used that as a comparison, like Jerome Ford can do what Kareem Hunt did. And I didn't really think about it too much until this stuff came out about Kareem's work ethic, but you're right, that's got to be a contributing factor to why they did not bring him back immediately this year until we had to. Right.
And like you said, especially John Kelly, like he really like kind of like gave us a behind the scenes look about like really. That was a guy I was like, man, maybe this dude's gonna end up sneaking onto the active roster and like being an important part of this team, because some like the things that he said about him. I mean, he really loved his game. He was like, if he gets an opportunity, he's gonna be special in this league. And I was like, man, that's crazy, because this guy has been on the practice squad, for 2 years now, 3 years now. So it just interesting. I wish him nothing but the best. He was a great guy, great fun interview, super nice. Like, I mean, can't say enough good things about him. We've already said I feel like it's a tough loss for the team, but I think there's an opportunity that comes out of this. Nothing just happens because, we gotta try something fresh. I think they were looking for something new. They were looking for maybe just a rebirth kind of on the offensive side of the ball. And, unfortunately he was one of the, staff casualties in that.
Yeah. So, we both of us keep talking about this work ethic thing, and let me play this second clip because that's kind of where that gets brought up. So I'll play this and then we'll keep talking about it.
The thing that I couldn't do while I was there is get the best out of Kareem. If they bring him back, I hope the next coach will be able to get the best out of Kareem. As a coach, all you want to do is to make a player better, but I wasn't able to get him to not be the last guy in meetings, not to be out at practice on time. Kareem's a hell of a player, but this is a team game, and I tried to use every avenue that I could with Jacoby Brissett, also Deshaun, those guys talking to her. But timing in this business is everything.
So a couple points there with that. One, Kareem Hunt did just undergo sports hernia surgery. So we knew he was dealing with an injury all week, though. I see a lot of people, as soon as people start, we posted too about it on Twitter about he had surgery for the injury and everything. And people were saying, well, maybe Stump Mitchell should have known that he was injured. Guys, he knew he was injured. He was on the freaking injury report every week. Trust me, we looked at these reports every week. It was always the same thing. And we knew he was hurt, but the injury does not stop you from coming to meetings on time, does not stop you from coming to practice on time. And it seems like that was the big thing that Stump was really trying to get out of Kareem was, look, this is a team thing. Everybody else is here. Everybody else is putting in the work. You need to be here. Whether you're injured or not, you need to be here. We expect, as a leader of this team, we expect you to be here. And this obviously was not just a one-year thing, because twice he mentioned trying to get Jacoby Brissett to talk to him. Well, that wasn't this year. Yeah. That was last year. So It was a 2-year situation with Kareem Hunt. And again, we love Kareem. Everybody in Cleveland loves Kareem Hunt. And I guess I'll just throw this out there. It's interesting because the people that always say they hate Deshaun Watson and can't root for him for his off the field stuff, I say, did you root for Kareem? But anyway, so
don't do that.
Hey,
chill out.
I'm just trying to make a point.
Yeah, no, I know. Trust me, I went down that road. Trust me, with multiple Browns players, and NFL players in general. They're beloved. But no, the crazy thing is it's reiterated. The second clip is it's the same.
I know.
It's the same thing. It's very emphasized. It's like, that's what I mean. Like, I think there's a little something to it. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely, I guess, like if you're on your way out, it's just surprising, because we like Kareem Hunt. We think Kareem Hunt's great. We think he lost a step for sure.
I think he
definitely
steps.
doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't look like the same guy. And maybe he hasn't been healthy all year. But it's just very surprising.
Yeah,
especially to hear it again. Like it is brought right back to that same point. That he tried everything he could and couldn't. And this is one of the, he's just kind of one of the best. That everybody says he's one of the best running back coaches in the league. Like, this isn't like just a second year, third year coach. This is a guy that people call him the running back whisperer. And he'll get another job. I would think so. But I don't know. There's definitely something there.
Yeah, I know in the interview, and you say he'll get another job, and I think he could if he wanted it. But at one point in the interview, he brought up that he's 65 years. I think she was asking him like, "What's the future?" He's like, "I just turned 65," and he almost at least what I took away from what he didn't say was he might honestly be at the age where he's like, I'm good. I don't need to coach. I don't need to keep doing this. I got a family and other things I want to do. And if he decides not to coach anymore, maybe that was also part of the reason why it's like, I'll just use this one last ditch effort. Because I did not hear, though, any malicious intent in what he said about Kareem. It was more of, I want Kareem to be a great player because I know what he's capable of. It was more of like that, constructive criticism type thing rather than Kareem Hunt's a shitty player and, he's a terrible teammate and he shouldn't even, he didn't say stuff like that. He basically just said, I want the best for Kareem. Kareem could be so much better than what he is. Okay. Did he kind of call him out? Yes. But did he say anything?
Twice.
Yeah, twice. But I mean, I don't feel like it was nasty stuff that he said about him. It just, I don't know. To me, it just kind of struck like he was disappointed and he was kind of letting it out.
I agree. And you kind of reflect, right, at the end of things like that. And, maybe that was like one of the things that I think that is like kind of one of the things that he's taking away from this was like he wasn't. I don't know personally what was going on between those two. There's obviously some type of friction there or, not alignment. But
right. Maybe
he's just looking back and going, hey, that was something that I've always tried to get accomplished and just never was able to break through. But the thing is, I don't think you'll hear really anything more than this. This will be something that Browns fans will just kind of regurgitate and bring up. Like let's say Kareem's not on the team next year. It'll be a talking point. Let's say we call him a few weeks into the year and say, hey, we need a little bit of running back depth. Jerome Ford's not producing like we thought, or whatever. Maybe we bring him. That'll be a talking point. But definitely something there
for sure. You want to move into Hollywood Brown?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
surely.
And the thing is, I should have brought up the article and everything that I referenced. I didn't because I just kind of read through it the other night and it was poorly written. I was like, I cannot believe people get paid to do this shit. It was pathetic. And the guy,
I feel like that doing this podcast sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. So as I'm like reading through it though, it was grinding my gears because I forget the guy's name. I can't even think of it now. And he was just saying how, Marquise Brown fits all these, he checks all these boxes and all the boxes were essentially like, he's an NFL wide receiver. He's alive.
Check.
He can breathe.
Check.
He can run. I'm like, oh, wonderful. He fits the Browns, you dipshit. And it was, right. I did not think it was a very good, whatever. So I guess I'm kind of giving my opinion already on what I think about Hollywood Brown.
Okay.
And I'll kick it over to you, but before I do, I just don't think he's a fit personally for the Browns. I think we need to get away from these. He's 5'9", 180 pounds if he's wet, and we don't need that. I know he's fast, he's got speed, but he's also got an extensive injury history. He's got the freaking foot problem dating back to that Liz Frank injury coming out of college and everything. So I am just not interested in a guy who Spot Track has him, projected market value at like $14.8 million. And he's only had a 1,000 yard receiving season in his career. I'm just
with Baltimore.
I think he's a
the rest of them is just
he's a whole guy.
Very pedestrian, pedestrian numbers. The rest of the year is like 500-600 yards.
You feel the same then?
So I think it's interesting, right? There's moments that I think about with Hollywood Brown. The big thing is the speed, right? We always talk about, man, if we could just get a guy that could take the top off of a defense, it was supposed to be Goodwin, and maybe it still is, but we've been looking for that guy. We don't have that guy. We got elite route runners. We got a great slot guy that we don't know what we're really doing with him 100% of the time. But, we don't have that deep threat. We don't have the guy that can just kill you with the speed. He's got that speed. He's very good at, his speed is dangerous. The only problem is, and you've touched on it, last 2 seasons, injuries. Now, I'll say this, when DeAndre Hopkins was suspended, those first 6 games with Kyler Murray, he kind of was a stud. You kind of got a glimpse of what he could be as a number one receiver. And I thought that would carry into this year. And it just kind of, now Kyler wasn't there.
Right, quarterback
I think they only, I don't think they got to, I think they played 1 or 2 games together. And, there's other guys on that team, Rondell Moore, Michael Wilson, that, Trey McBride. Trey McBride might be the biggest target vulture on that team. But there is, I would say, for $15 million, like, I think that there's some other guys that I would be more interested in. And will we be able to get a hold of those guys? I think you guys already know the list on that. You guys have already touched on it. I think you think T. Higgins. And now he's going to be more than 14 million, but you think T. Higgins, you think like Calvin Ridley, Michael Pittman. Like, there's guys that I think have more value with this team. The crazy thing to me is I feel like Calvin Ridley and Amari Cooper are very like scary similar, like both dangerous elite route runners. So I don't know if we need 2 of those on the team. You know what I mean? And Calvin Ridley's getting older.
Right.
So the idea of Hollywood is it's exciting, but can he stay on the field? Do we need to pay $15 million to a guy who can't even stay on the field?
And he doesn't have any sort of elite production to his record,
right.
Really.
Right. If we're airing the ball out all over the place, like, could he be that like smaller frame like a Will Fuller was like for Watson down in Houston? I don't know. But I mean, to me, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense for the Browns. And then from what you read about Arizona's situation, it sounds like Kyler Murray wants him back. So if you're going to go with Kyler, he's going to be your quarterback. You've got him locked into this big contract. You got to give him at least one weapon other than Trey McBride. So I honestly, personally, I think he's going to be in Arizona. I think he'll come back, on a kind of an earn it. He'll still get money, but it'll be a very much like you've got to earn it a little bit contract.
Well, that's fine with me. Again, he's just not somebody I'm overly excited about. I don't know.
He's really fast, but he's not going to be like a guy that you're going to get the update and you're going to be dancing around in your living room.
Exactly.
And now I said that about Odell Beckham. I can remember the day that we traded for Odell Beckham and I danced around in my living room and screamed, and I didn't even have kids at the time, so I couldn't wake people up. But I remember like high-fiving my wife. That was the kind of excitement level. Did that work out? No. So
but he had elite production,
it's not like, it's not like a complete loss. If we don't go and get that guy, there's guys in the draft, but I think there's a little something with this T. Higgins. If they can just not franchise tag him, if they franchise tag him, we're done.
Well, he's not
coming to Cleveland.
Tag and trade too. Now, are they trading with the Browns? I
Hell
don't
no,
think so.
Bro.
No.
Hell no.
But
that's what I mean. They would have to be like a sign and trade. And like, to me, that's the biggest thing. I think they franchise tag him. And you read that a lot. Like, they're going to probably franchise tag him if they can afford to. And then it'll be like a sign and trade kind of deal. And there's just no way in hell I see Cincinnati trading in division. And then you have to go up against that guy twice a year. Not a chance.
Nope.
I'd love it. I think it's very exciting. The idea of like him and Amari together.
For sure, man.
You got your young receiver for the next 5 years at least. I mean, he's only, 20?
He's
young.
24-ish.
Yeah, he's not. He's super young and extremely talented. And Deshaun Watson, he's very interested in bringing him in. But I just don't see it happening next year. Maybe if he gets to be free agent and he's got a little, he's control of his destiny, I think Cleveland could be a destination for him.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, we've talked about, Derek talked about the some of the free agents. You brought a lot of them up there, some of the big names and all that stuff. But, I just always go back to Amari Cooper, and we didn't know he was available.
Right.
We didn't know he was available for a 5th. And Andrew Berry pulled that off. So I would never put it past Andrew Berry to bring in a legitimate number one receiver to pair up with another legitimate number one receiver with Amari Cooper this offseason that no one's even talking about. Yeah. And, we might be able to look across the league and look at some receivers that are on teams with some deals that's like, they might be looking to move off this guy, but just stuff like that kind of comes out of nowhere, and I love it. That's what I love about Andrew Berry.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that so the salary cap is tricky for me because I always look at the salary cap and I go, shit, we don't have any money.
Right.
Where are we getting all this money from? And then all of a sudden we got all this money in like 2 months and we're making deals. I think that it wouldn't be crazy to me, especially like, let's say some of these teams that decide to rebuild, like maybe like a Tennessee. Let's see. I don't think it's that crazy. I'd love to see Hopkins back with Watson for a while. And true. I don't know if I don't think he's completely cooked yet. You know what I mean? He still showed that he's got moments where he looks good. I don't think he'd be like the number one choice for Browns fans. Like, I don't think that would be a complete sell for him. But I mean, if we could bring him in on a trade and get him for next to nothing, like I feel like kind of Andrew Berry always does, we're going to throw the ball a lot. That's all I've heard. We're going to throw the ball a ton. So let's see what happens. You know, draft nights, it seems like it's far away, but it really isn't. I think that he can make it really, really interesting.
I think you're right. Speaking of draft night, we'll be probably doing night 2 again, I'm guessing, since that's when the Browns pick. So stay tuned for all that information. But that's exciting, man. The off season, as soon as football's over, at least for, you know, I mean, we still have the Super Bowl, but Brown season's over. And it's like, okay, we got some time here before thinking, no, we really don't, because free agency opens up here in not too long. It's already February. That's going to be in March, and then April rolls around, it's the draft, and then all of a sudden it's summer and mini camps, and we're back in the stadium watching football again. So things go quick. That's why we always tell you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything new. We're doing a lot more content now, guys, so stay tuned. Make sure you're sharing it with everybody. So before we get out of here, me and Justin are going to give you our top 5 Ohio athlete legends. And I don't know how you have your list set up, but if you're able to, I'd like to go 5-1. Does that make sense?
I can try to make that happen.
You can try to make, okay. So I can
try that.
I'll give my number 5, and then you give your number 5, and we'll kind of go back and forth. How's that?
We can try to make that work. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if we've got any overlap here, again, we haven't talked about this. I have no idea who's on Justin's list, nor he mine. And if we have overlap, that's cool. But I've got some notes on my number 5, 4, and 3. My number 2 and 1 are what I deem as no notes needed. So we will get to that. But number 5 for me is A.J. Hawk from the Ohio State
A.J. Hawk.
Buckeyes.
Interesting.
So I just put in here, A.J. Hawk from Kettering, Ohio, played high school at Centerville, college at the Ohio State, of course, for the Buckeyes. Freshman on the 2002 national championship team. First team all Big Ten from sophomore to senior. In 2005, he won the Lombardi Award for best linebacker in college. Went number 5 overall in the 2006 draft by the Packers. He finished 3rd in voting for the Defensive Rookie of the Year award that year. And he was on the Super Bowl 45 championship team for the Packers in 2010. So I got A.J. Hawk at number 5. This episode is brought to you by Manly Bands. Browns fans, I have an exciting new sponsorship partner for you guys, and it is crazy how it all happened, okay? So I'm getting married soon. I went to pick out my wedding band. I did not know that the cost of gold was the highest it's ever been. So, you know, when the rings I liked and they pulled out of the case and showed me, and I turned it over, saw the price tag, and they were $1,600. Yeah, I essentially crapped my pants and ran out of there. I hate jewelry stores. I hate the salespeople. I hate the selection. We went, and again, true story here, 7 different stores looking for a ring, and all of them had the most pathetic selection imaginable for men. So I said, screw it. I went to manlybands.com, and everything after that point was an incredible experience. Their selection is huge. All sorts of styles, materials. Guys, they have wedding bands made from Jack Daniel's whiskey barrels, meteorites, and even dinosaur bones. They also have a huge selection of the tungsten rings that everybody likes, cobalt chrome, and gold. And the best part was the customer service was some of the best I've ever received. In a world of AI and bots, Manly Bands keeps it real with real freaking people. The whole experience was so awesome, I asked if we could advertise for them on the show, and here we are. Screw those jewelry stores and those salespeople. ManlyBands.com. Use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, for a whopping 25% off your order. Whether you've already got a band or you're getting married in the future, check out what they have. Also, you can order a free ring size guide and they'll ship it straight to you, so you know exactly what size ring you need. And again, never step foot in a jewelry store. And also for you big fellows with the big hands, guys, they got rings up to size 20. Rings come with free engraving in the US, and they send you a free silicone band with your order. It's unreal. These guys are the best. Manlybands.com. Promo code DAWGS for 25% off your order.
For me, I might be a little biased here. I went with CJ McCollum. And I don't know if that's going to resonate at all for you.
Yeah.
CJ McCollum, kid that I went to high school with. I didn't go to at the same year as him. He was about 6 years younger than me, so he was more with like my sister's age group. But a kid that like came up through Stark County. I'm from Stark County. Once I came over to the States, originally out of the UK. Shout out all my British, British people out there. But a kid that like you knew he was going to be good, and then holy crap, like just he never kind of slowed down. Like he was really good in high school, but he was kind of smaller, and then kind of got bigger, and then just his college career was epic, and then he's still very, very good in the NBA. I mean, I wouldn't put him in like 50 greatest of all time type deal, but like a guy that's
he's good though.
A good player in the NBA. Yeah, and especially like somebody that like grew up, I don't know, 5-10 minutes from where I live now. It's pretty epic.
That's pretty cool. So at number 4, I've got Josh Cribbs. Now, this one deviates from, he's the only one on my list who wasn't born or grew up in Ohio, but he was born in Washington, D.C., played high school in D.C., but he came to Kent State, which is just up the road from us, right up close to you, and that's where he played college. Stuff about Josh Cribbs I didn't realize, he was the only player in NCAA history to lead his team in both rushing and passing in 4 different seasons. He set Kent State's single-season combined yardage record in 2003, which then Julian Edelman beat him in 2008. Both those guys were quarterbacks. He was a UDFA by the Browns in 2005, return specialist, one of the best of all time, 11,113 kickoff yards, 2,375 punt return yards, and 11 total return touchdowns. So, he went to Kent State in Ohio, played for the Browns in Ohio. He's still in Ohio doing Cleveland things, and I love me some Josh Cribbs.
Okay, I'm keeping it local again.
All right.
Keeping it local, another guy that I went to the same high school that I did.
Oh, geez.
Shout out Glen Oak High School in Stark County, Canton, Ohio. I'm going to go with Ohio State great Dustin Fox.
There we go. I was hoping he was on your list.
I'm keeping it low. I'm keeping it local. I'm trying to, well, at least for now.
Dude, so Dustin Fox was so much fun to watch at Ohio State, and that's why I had AJ Hawk on my list because, I was young when those guys were playing football, and even now, honestly, whenever somebody on defense can captivate you and make you want to watch defense, because offense is fun to watch, right? Offense is what everybody wants to see the most of and everything. But when there's a guy on defense, it's like, I can't wait till the defense is out there. That was AJ Hawk for me. And Dustin Fox was right there too.
Dustin Fox, I watched him play. I went to every game in his senior season. Basically, our team was really, really good that year. He was our running back, and he was an absolute stud. He was like one of those guys, like he was just one of the most athletic guys on the field.
Yep.
Every play, you know what I mean? And so he was our running back and also safety. But my God, just fun to watch. And then just to, like you said, like just his career progression. And then just, he's a local guy. He's always tied up with Cleveland sports, Ohio State. So for me, I'm probably like, there's going to be people like, hey, are you an idiot? You know, you left out some of these names, and I already see one that I'm like, shit, I fucked up. Dustin Fox should not be over this person. So maybe I'll 3A it, 3B it or something.
There
I'll
you
just
go.
add people. We'll just do a top 6, you know, I don't know. But go ahead.
I've got
dog.
honorable mentions
Give
at
me-
the end. I've got honorable mentions. So.
Honorable mentions, like number one type honorable mentions.
So for number 3 for me is Troy Smith. Troy Smith
good. Yeah.
was probably, until like a guy like CJ Stroud came around, and I loved watching Justin Fields too, but Troy Smith was my all-time favorite quarterback at Ohio State to watch. He was so much fun to watch. He I put in here born in Columbus, but they moved to Cleveland. He actually started at St. Edward High School in Lakewood. I didn't know this, but he got kicked off the football team because he elbowed a kid in the head during a varsity basketball game. Must have been intentional because he got himself kicked off. So then he transferred to Glenville, which Ted Ginn Sr. was the coach. He played with Ted Ginn Jr., who also went to Ohio State. He redshirted his first year. He was on that 02 national championship team. He actually started out playing as a running back for Ohio State. And then, do you remember Justin Zwick?
Absolutely. He
All
was
right,
a Massillon Tiger in Stark County, Ohio.
He was like one of the best
Quarterback
recruits in the entire nation. Goes to Ohio State, so Troy Smith just his backup, and then Zwick gets hurt. Smith comes in, and the rest is kind of history, though. He did get suspended for taking money from a booster, which I guess now wouldn't be a big deal. But the dude just lit it up. In 05, he had the fourth highest passer rating in the nation, 162.66. Offensive MVP of the Fiesta Bowl. And then in 06, won the Davey O'Brien Award for Best College Quarterback. Had a 3-0 record against Michigan, which we love. He was the first quarterback, I didn't know this, first quarterback since 1936 to win 3 straight games against Michigan. He won the Heisman that year, second largest margin of victory in Heisman voting in history. And the first was O.J. Simpson. So other than those two, you know what I mean? The margin of victory was huge. And sadly, lost the 07 national championship to Florida, to Urban Meyer, whatever. Ended up being a 5th round pick by the Ravens. He just, his career in the NFL didn't really materialize.
Right.
I think he would have been a much better fit for today's NFL than back then.
I agree. So for me, at number 3, I'm going to go 3A, 3B.
Okay.
Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce.
Okay.
The Kelce brothers out of Westlake, Ohio.
Yep.
I mean, do we really even have to go into it? Probably one of the best centers of all time, arguably the best tight end of all time.
Probably
Local
Hall of Famers,
kids,
both of them. Yep.
both love, Cleveland sports, Ohio sports, and also have a great podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for them. If you're doing podcasts, that's the way to go.
That's the way. Yeah, they're doing it. They're doing it right. It's pretty entertaining. All right, go ahead, big dog.
All right. At number 2, again, now we've entered I don't need notes for these guys, but number 2 is LeBron James.
Woo!
Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary. I mean, this guy, when he was in high school, he was all the rage. I mean, people would travel from all over the state, probably other states too, just to come in to watch his high school games because he was that big of a phenomenon. And it was, is he going to be able to take what he's doing in high school into the NFL? And he goes at 18 years old, or NFL, NBA, 18 years old, straight into the NBA to the Cavaliers, stays in Ohio, stays in Cleveland, and just dominates. And arguably the best basketball player of all time now. I mean, his career has been extraordinary.
Damn, you have LeBron James at number 2?
I do, because my
God.
number 1 is a personal favorite, lifelong favorite athlete of all time. So that's why. But
okay.
If we're going on career, just achievements, I mean, of course LeBron would be 1, but I got him at 2.
Okay.
I got him at 2.
Okay. Oh, okay. So at number 2 for me, this is a legend of one of the games that I actually like to play when I'm just out drinking in the summer, golf. The majors most winning golfer ever, Jack Nicklaus, Ohio native.
No kidding.
Born in Ohio.
Okay.
The Golden Bear, baby, 18 major wins. We thought that was going to come down, and then Tiger Woods ran into some issues, but it's Jack,
Yeah.
It's the Golden Bear. Stud.
Good one.
Straight stud.
That's cool, man. That's interesting, man. You got yourself a good list. I like that.
He was born in Columbus, Ohio. So, it's not like he was, up the road or anything, but
Right.
about 2.5 hours up the road, home base.
Nice. So my number one, you ready for who got one over LeBron?
I have no idea where you're going to go with this.
Number one, a guy that I just couldn't get enough of growing up was Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey
Really?
Jr.
Okay.
Was not born in Ohio, but moved to Cincinnati when he was 3 years old. Played high school in Cincinnati. His dad played for the Reds. He ended up getting drafted by the Mariners, but then came back and played most of his career with the Reds. Ken Griffey Jr. made baseball for me when I was a kid. I mean, I loved all the players. I followed baseball a lot when I was a kid. I don't give two shits about it now, but he was that guy for me. The way his batting stance, I wanted to be Ken Griffey Jr. I wanted to play center field. I'm a right-handed thrower. I wanted to throw left-handed. I wanted to be Ken Griffey Jr. and
hat backwards, bro.
Yep,
batting.
I wore my hat backwards to school all the time, man.
There's a swagger about him. I mean, it's still, I think he kind of set the tone for, many generations of future baseball players. I know as a kid, when you were playing baseball like in the backyard, that's the guy you wanted to be. You know what I mean? When you lined up.
Yep. Hall of Famer now. So Ken Griffey Jr., number one for me. What about you?
For me personally, it's got to be LeBron James.
Okay. I figured that's who you had at one.
It's LeBron James, and only just because it's a crazy story. Literally 15 minutes up the road for me, this kid was born. Tough life. Phenom in high school. Like, people were talking about him when he was 11, 12 years old. And then you watched as a Cleveland fan and a fan of Ohio sports, I got to watch this kid's journey all the way up and the doubters and everything. And you watch just how special he was. And when he was with the Cavs the first time, you're like, God, we're so lucky to have this guy, but we can't get enough around him to actually, it was always just something would happen. It was always, we ran into an Orlando team or a San Antonio team in the finals. And it was it was tough. And then to finally bring one home, in 2016, to bring a title home to Cleveland, for me, I swear to people, I tell people all the time, that was something I had put to bed, that I would never get to see a Cleveland sports title in my life. So to get to see that, it was just so special, man. I literally, I tell my kids, joking around, I make them watch Believeland, and I walk them through how special those days were. Cause I really don't know. I like to believe that we'll see another title, but I'll always remember that parade, man. I'll always remember it was me, Blake, John, we all went up there. We parked in Cleveland Indians employee parking lot and snuck into the parade, basically. And I've just, it was surreal at the time, but it doesn't even feel even to this day, it wasn't even real life. You have to pinch yourself sometimes to remember that actually did happen in an incredible series. And to me, Michael Jordan was incredible. Don't get me wrong. Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan, but I personally root for LeBron James as the best of all time, because it's just special that he was that close, to home and everything, and has become the player he is. It's an incredible story.
It really is. It really is. He would have been one for me, but I had to save it for Ken. But
we left a couple off too.
We did. So we've got some honorable mentions, and I will tell you right now that the ones I listed out, just that I wanted to throw out there after my official list was done. These are what I kept this list intentional. I have 5 guys that are local, 5 guys that are from where I grew up, and one of them I definitely grew up with. So this list is kind of specific to that. But who do you have as honorable mentions?
There's 2, and you could honestly put them easy top 3, both of them. And you could even make the argument top 2.
Okay.
It's that. So number one, the first one, Steph Curry. Hate him or love him, he completely changed the game. He was born in Akron, Ohio.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I mean, you could make the argument. I know for a while people were making the argument that he was right there at LeBron's level. I disagree with that personally. But
different players for sure. Yeah.
But completely revolutionized the game of basketball. Completely changed the coaching, how you attack as far as with the 3-point shot. He can shoot it from anywhere in the gym.
Yep.
So a guy that definitely probably deserves to be way higher up my list, but I kept it local, at the beginning with 5 and 4. And then another one, Simone Biles.
Oh,
Born
okay.
in Columbus, Ohio, world-renowned gold medalist gymnast. Another one that I saw and I was like, damn, she's like the best of the best in her sport. Like she definitely probably deserves to be in this list, but I was like, just give me the Kelsey brothers. But no disrespect to her. Another, elite world athlete, and born in Ohio.
Cool. So I'll just kind of run through these real quick. First, this is like I wanted him on my list, but Percy, if you're listening, I promise you saw my list, so you understand. But Percy Garner, I went to high school with Percy, played baseball and football with him throughout since we were little kids. He ended up going to Ball State, playing baseball and football, pursued baseball, which, the guy was a hell of a quarterback, but as a pitcher, he was dominant. He was the most dominant pitcher I've ever seen. And, in our age group. And he ended up getting drafted by the Philadelphia Phillies. Then he came over and got signed by Cleveland in that 2016 World Series run, pitched for the Indians in September. It was so much fun watching him up there balling out. And, now we do podcasts together and everything. So Percy is definitely a local guy that is on my favorite Ohio athlete list. I've got C. Grant, who played for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He's from the town right next to me. I've done a podcast with him before, and Percy. He played for the Saints in the NFL, just one hell of an athlete. He was on that championship team too in 2002. I've got Zach Caleros, one of the most electric athletes I've ever seen. He played quarterback and safety for Steubenville Red Riders, and then he ended up going and playing for Cincinnati, the Bearcats, in college, and he's still playing quarterback. He's a starting quarterback for the Winnipeg something or other.
I was going to say CFL, right?
Yeah, CFL. He's been the quarterback.
I remember we talked about him for Cleveland Browns quarterbacks.
Yeah, he's got championships up there. Like, he's one of the best quarterbacks in that Canadian league, and it's just so crazy to think. Like, I played against this guy in high school, and
it's wild.
It is wild. And then I've got Denton True Young. Do you know who that is?
I have no idea who that is, bro. Inform me.
Denton True Young is Cy Young. Was actually born and raised, grew up just about 15 minutes, what would that be, east of where I grew up. They've got a whole museum there in Newcomerstown, Ohio, dedicated to Cy Young. So he's an Ohio guy. Grew up there.
No kidding.
And then last, probably a guy you're familiar with, Corey Gerbrandt.
Oh, yes, very familiar.
MMA fighter.
No Love. Is that who you're talking
That's
about?
No
Love
Garbrandt,
UFC champion.
Yep.
Man, at one point, he was hell on wheels. Like, nobody could stop that dude. And he unfortunately ran into a juiced up TJ Dillashaw twice. Or I think that his UFC career, he's still fighting. He's got, he just actually fought recently, maybe a month ago. Just watched him. A guy like in this area, people get behind. He's from pretty much right down the road. Like, 45, I'd say probably 40 minutes south for me, all the way down to Uhrichsville. But
yeah, which is like 15 minutes from where I grew
fighter.
Up. Yep.
Like, for a guy that weighs 135 pounds and can absolutely put you to sleep, like knock you the hell out immediately. Crazy good fighter. TJ Dillashaw did steroids. That's a real thing.
So, the thing is, the list can go on and on and on with these Ohio athletes. We've seen a lot of great players in different sports coming out of this state, and it's been a ton of fun. So if you guys got your own favorite athletes from Ohio, drop them in the comments.
Yes.
We want to know, if it's on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this. I know on Spotify, you can leave comments. Drop them in there, and we'll talk about them in a future episode, because I'm sure there's a ton of players, ton of people that we've left off of this list. Like I said, some of these were really close and near and dear to like me and where I grew up, and Justin too. So let us know who you got. We want to hear from everybody on this one. We're not going to talk about Taylor Swift in this episode. That's going to be in the after hour. So if you guys want to listen to what we had to say about that whole situation, join thedawgs.com, become an official Dog Pack member. You can do a 7-day free trial. You can watch the after hours episodes, jump in the Discord, interact with everybody for 7 days, see if you like it. And then if you do, which that's honestly what most people have done here recently in the last, I'd say 6 months, they do the free trial. And I would say 90% of people end up sticking around. So check it out. Come join us. And we would love to get to know you better. It's a great community, great people, and just a ton of fun. So, Justin, let's wrap this sucker up and get over to the after hours. What do you say?
Absolutely, brother. Let's do that.
All right. Appreciate everybody watching, listening, and until we talk to you guys next time, let's go Browns.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.